Voting matters, and this is a very critical election. And the stats so far are showing that we as men are not voting as we should for Stacey Abrams.
And why? Why should we? Because we're black men and that's it? Hey, you gotta do more than that to sell me, Bishop. But let's look into Miss Abrams a bit. I mean, she obviously has been pushed to the front of the Democratic political line. And to me, it's due to obvious reasons. Reasons are, she's black, she's a woman, and she's progressive. Now, after losing the 2018 gubernatorial election to the current governor, Brian Kemp, Stacey Abrams, she was adamant that the election was stolen. So, due to that, she established an organization built around voter suppression called the Fair Fight Action. And although the courts rejected all of the claims that there was no voter suppression during the 2018 gubernatorial election, this woman, she still continued to claim that she was being robbed of the 2018 gubernatorial elections. Yo, isn't it funny that when a Republican wins, a Democrat can make claims that they were robbed, but the same can be done the other way around?
The things that make you safe.
But I digress. Back to you, Bishop.
And so I'm asking all of us that this is not the time to be chauvinistic and lazy. And what I say to my brethren, I say to the sisters, but they're the ones that's been carrying it anyway. But we need to do our part to make sure that Stacey Abrams is elected governor and Raphael Warnock is elected senator.
Raphael Warnock. Look, this video isn't about him, but while researching Stacey Abrams and her Fair Fight Action interest group, I found it very interesting that an organization based upon voter suppression raised $6 million to support Raphael Warnock in his Georgia Senate runoff elections in early 2021. $6 million. Now look, don't get me wrong. I know Republicans also, set up, interest groups whose main interest is really to funnel money back into their party. I know that's pretty much how it works. So with that said, Abrams didn't do nothing illegal. She's just a typical politician like anyone else. And as a black man, you should not be cornered to vote for her when she's just another pea in a pod like another Republican. But for this pastor to use his pulpit to shame black men into voting for her, that's egregious. And then to throw on top of that how black women are carrying it as to, emasculate the men in his congregation, that just demonstrates to me how much of a beta male this bishop is. And in my opinion, he should not be followed as your spiritual leader. All right, now to the abortion part, where Ms. Abrams, she has taken a strong stance of being pro-choice, or as I would say, pro-death. Here, she states an obvious lie about how a woman who has ectopic pregnancies must bleed out before the doctor gets to see them.
That's the law in the state of Georgia, that for women who have ectopic pregnancies, they've got to wait until they're about to bleed out before a doctor can go in and help them out.
Now, I didn't know what ectopic pregnancy was, but after doing this video and do some research, I see it as it's when a woman has the symptoms of pregnancy due to a fertilized egg being stuck outside of the uterus. Therefore, it has to be removed. Otherwise, it can bleed out and also cause other complications that can affect the surrounding organs. Now, knowing all of this, as well as the Georgia law, you think Stacy would know. This is untrue, because if you look here, go to the House Bill 481, passed by the House and Senate of Georgia, and we scroll all the way down to Section 4 of the bill, and this is what it says in regards to what Ms. Abrams stated. Abortion means the act of using, prescribing, or administering any instrument, substance, device, or other means with a purpose to terminate a pregnancy with knowledge that termination will, with reasonable likelihood, cause the death of an unborn child, provided, however, that any such act should not be considered an abortion if the act is performed with the purpose of A. removing a dead unborn child caused by spontaneous abortion, or B. removing an ectopic pregnancy. So, under Georgia law, women with ectopic pregnancies, they are protected. Now, knowing that, and many others that are blatant lies, one must ask himself, why is this lady Stacey Abrams pushing hard for women to have the right to abort their babies? I mean, she even made a claim that abortions can help the economy because being able to abort your child dismisses you from focusing so much on inflation and the tightening of your dollars because you have one less mouth to feed. So therefore, you're more economically liberated. I mean, which in reality is correct, to mathematically correct, because kids are dependents, therefore they require time, money, effort, in order to raise them. And, sometimes it can be very, very burdensome. But to argue the removal of a life to reduce your monetary hardship, this is so vicious and vile. I mean, how depraved is this lady to make a statement like that? Now look, I'm not going to engage into name calling and ad hominem attacks, because one is too easy here. But I'll just say this. I can see why she's okay with abortion, because I can see why a man doesn't want to skeet up in there. You ever notice that there's never some fine looking baddie that's a spokesperson for pro-choice? It's always like a Oompa Loompa type of girl. But Ms. Abrams, just like her other Democratic colleagues, she needs to focus on the main issue, which at this junction is the economy. And that umbrella is inflation, unemployment, gas prices, interest rates, things of that nature. But obviously they cannot, because they are one of the main reasons why the economy is the way it is, with the things that pass in legislation, stimulus checks, and so forth that they keep pushing for and so forth. And this full circle leads us back to the bishop, who's basically misleading his flock. He's misleading his flock by, one, discussing politics from the pulpit. That's not the reason for church. Endorsing a candidate from the pulpit. If you're going to talk it, don't endorse a candidate. And then most importantly, number 3, shaming the men in his congregation to vote for a particular candidate. This is absurd. What's happened to the church, man? Look, if you're going to vote, cool. Do your research. Do your research on every candidate for whatever position you're voting for. And if none of the candidates meet your requirements, then don't feel pressure to vote. Remember, during the civil rights era and prior, they fought for your right to vote, not for your right to must vote. Remember, you have more than 2 choices. Use it wisely.